Imagine a person walking through a world of chaos, yet their heart remains still calm, as a mirror lake untouched by wind. No criticism wounds them, no anger drags them down, no action from others can disturb their peace. This is not emotional numbness, it is mastery over one's own mind. While most people react instinctively, allowing words, actions, and glances of others to control their emotions, the one who masters emotion stands on higher ground. They do not react, they observe. When the world rushes, they slow down. When others shout, they smile. When misunderstood, they feel no need to defend. Because they understand the storm outside can only topple those who already carry a storm within. Buddhism calls this state the unmoved mind, a condition where the outer world no longer holds power over the inner. Confucianism calls it serenity, that brings insight, for only in stillness can one perceive the true nature of things. Taoism calls it wu wei, acting in harmony with nature untouched by desire or fleeting emotion. When these three wisdom traditions meet, they all point to one truth. Inner peace is the highest form of power. Most people mistake emotional control for suppression, but that is a misunderstanding. Suppression is forcing down the flame. Mastery is understanding the flame, redirecting its light to illuminate, not to burn. Emotions are not enemies, they are signals. Anger, sadness, hurt. Each is a lesson when observed with awareness. When the mind is no longer ruled by emotion, wisdom begins to reveal itself. At that moment, you cease to react to life and begin to respond with intelligence. Emotional mastery is not an inborn gift. It is a discipline practiced in small moments, choosing calm when attacked, silence when misunderstood, kindness when tested. Such a person knows that true freedom does not come from controlling others, but from controlling oneself. A person may have power, wealth, and fame, but if a single word can provoke their anger, they remain a slave to emotion. Meanwhile, one who stays centered amid turmoil, though they possess nothing, has already attained true freedom. Therefore, the greatest strength lies not in muscle nor speech, but in the ability to remain unmoved. When you are no longer pulled by the world outside, you become the center of your inner world. From that stillness, every action you take carries power, because it arises not from reaction, but from awareness. The root of human suffering does not lie in events themselves, but in how we attach ourselves to them. When someone insults you, their words alone cannot hurt. It is your identification with the feeling of being hurt that shakes the mind. That is why Buddhism teaches observe without attachment. Emotional detachment is not coldness or indifference. It is the ability to witness emotion without becoming it. When anger arises, ordinary people react, but the wise observe. They clearly see. This is anger, not me. That very recognition marks the beginning of freedom. Imagine emotions as clouds. They drift in change, form, and dissolve. You are the sky, vast, silent, unbound by the clouds. If you identify with each passing cloud, you lose the clarity of the sky. But if you only observe the clouds vanish on their own and the sky remains clear, this is the essence of emotional detachment and observation, without judgment, awareness, without reaction. When someone says something that angers you, pause. Do not respond. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? It may be anger, pain, fear, or helplessness. Name it. The moment you name it, you step outside of it. The emotion exists, but it no longer controls you. Just as a sailor does not fight the waves, but balances with them to pass through safely, you too do not need to extinguish anger, only to stay aware as it moves through you. In Confucianism, this is serenity that brings clarity. Only when the heart is still does wisdom shine. In Taoism, it is purity of mind acting naturally without being dragged to emotional extremes. Those who achieve emotional detachment are not devoid of emotion. They simply understand its nature. They know that emotion is like a wave, and their mind is the ocean. Waves may rise, but they can never shatter the sea. Emotional detachment does not make you indifferent to life. It allows you to love life more deeply, because you are no longer entangled in its emotional storms. You can see things as they truly are, neither inflated by anger nor distorted by fear. When you pause, observe, and release, you break the ancient chain of automatic reactions that has bound humanity for centuries. Anger, pain, and disappointment will always come and go. They only stay when you hold on. Learning to let go is learning to return to yourself. When you are no longer ruled by emotion, you finally master your mind. And from that detachment, you no longer burn in the fire of anger. You become the keeper of the light that shines through the storm. Most human suffering does not come from events themselves, but from how we interpret them in our minds. When someone says something hurtful, the first reflex is often, "Why did they say that? Do they look down on me? What did they mean by that?" It is these questions that ignite the fire of anger, not the words themselves. The human mind tends to interpret through a negative filter, and each time you repeat the wrong question, you strengthen the old chain of reaction. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come from the truth, but from the story we tell ourselves about it. To be free, you must change the question. This is where the what-if mindset becomes the key to reprogramming your mind. Instead of asking, "Why did they do this to me?" try asking, "What if this is a lesson meant for me? What if that person is suffering from something I don't understand? What if this situation came to strengthen my patience?" The moment you change the direction of your question, the energy of your emotion shifts. Anger softens, wisdom arises, and compassion is awakened. Confucianism calls this knowing yourself and knowing others. When you place yourself in another's perspective, you stop seeing the event through the lens of ego and begin to see it with the eyes of an observer. Taoism says, circumstances are merely the wind. Your mind is the sail. The wind may not change direction, but if you adjust the sail, the boat takes a new course. Likewise, the what-if mindset does not change the event, it changes your entire emotional journey within it. Whenever you face criticism, instead of reacting with hurt, ask yourself, what if this is a chance for me to grow? Every word, no matter how harsh, may contain a seed of awareness. Perhaps the person speaking lacked tact, yet their words reveal a weakness within you. When the heart opens to receive, every conflict becomes a lesson. Reprogramming the mind is not self-consolation. It is a shift from victimhood to growth. The reactive mind asks, "Why is this happening to me?" while the awakened mind asks, "What is this here to teach me?" With just one change in questioning, you transform your entire energy. When you train the what-if mindset, every situation becomes an opportunity, every clash becomes a lesson, and every wound becomes a teacher. Gradually, you realize that no one can make you angry anymore, because you have learned to be curious instead of judgmental, understanding instead of reactive. In that moment, your mind ascends to a higher level of wisdom, where every adversity becomes a path leading you back to peace. No one can make you angry, sad, or hurt unless you allow it. It sounds simple, yet within it lies one of the deepest lessons of the inner life, emotional sovereignty. Each time you become angry at someone, you are in truth handing them the key to your mind. You permit their words, actions, or attitudes to invade and control your inner state, and in doing so, you lose your freedom. The one who understands the way never lets emotions be manipulated by the external world. They know that true strength is not in changing others, but in staying steady amid the storm. Buddhism calls this state self-liberation. No one can disturb your peace unless you agree to it. When someone insults you, they only throw a stone. Whether you pick it up and strike yourself with it is your choice. If you refuse to take it, the stone simply falls to the ground powerless. Emotions work the same way. They can harm you only when you nurture them. Confucianism teaches, the noble one seeks fault within himself, not in others. The wise understand that they are the source of their reactions, not victims of circumstance. Mastering emotions does not mean being unfeeling. On the contrary, it is the capacity to feel deeply without drowning in those feelings. When you become aware that I control how I feel, you instantly reclaim your power. No matter who shouts, criticizes, or judges you, you remain calm within, because you know I am not obligated to react. I can choose peace. That choice is the highest expression of freedom. In Taoism, the enlightened person is described as unchanging amid all change. This is not indifference, it is mastery. When others act without restraint, they become puppets of their emotions. But when you remain calm, you hold the strings. The difference between reaction and mastery lies in a single moment of awareness, the moment you realize you do not have to respond as you always have. Remember, when you let someone stir your emotions, you allow them to control your mind. But when you remind yourself, no one can make me feel anything unless I choose to feel it, you reclaim full sovereignty over your inner world. You become the driver, no longer a passenger tossed by emotional waves. Emotional sovereignty is the art of maturity. The understanding that you cannot control the world, but you can control your response to it. And when you do, you not only become free, you radiate a calmness that transforms the world around you. For the one who masters their own mind is no longer ruled by the world, but rules the way the world touches them. Anger is a powerful form of energy. Unchecked, it can destroy reason, relationships, and inner peace. Yet when redirected, it becomes an inexhaustible fuel for creativity, determination, and spiritual strength. In Buddhism, this is called energy transformation, or using poison to cure poison, meaning to use negative energy to nurture wisdom. The problem is not anger itself, but how we handle it. The weak are ruled by anger. The wise rule over it. When emotion surges, energy rises within like a flame. Most people either suppress that fire, letting it smolder and burn them from within, or explode, burning everything around them. Both cause damage. The third way, the path of awareness, is transmutation. You neither extinguish nor unleash the fire. You forge steel with it. When anger arises, notice it breathe deeply and ask yourself, how can I use this energy for something constructive? Instead of lashing out at others, you can transform it into motivation to work harder, train your body, write, create, or improve yourself. Anger is raw life energy, and all energy can be redirected. When you learn to use it, you turn reaction into strength. Just like electricity, it can kill, or it can light up an entire city. It all depends on the hands that direct it. Taoism teaches, reversal is the movement of the Tao. It means turning the energy inward instead of letting it explode outward. Rather than letting anger flow out as destruction, you let it return inward, becoming heat that refines the self. The cultivator of the way does not avoid emotion. They use emotion to train the mind. When negative energy is transformed, your frequency shifts from anger to clarity, from irritation to creativity, from resentment to resolve. Confucianism emphasizes, in victory do not be arrogant, in defeat do not be angry. The noble person remains calm in both triumph and loss. That is the mark of energy, tamed. Once energy is transmuted, you are no longer pulled by emotional extremes. You become the conductor of the current, guided by wisdom. Remember, energy never disappears. It only changes form. Anger does not need to be destroyed. It only needs to be redirected. When you learn to transform it, you cease being controlled by emotion and instead use it as a tool for spiritual evolution. In that moment, anger ceases to be an enemy. It becomes a teacher, revealing your limits, your patience, and your power of self-control. The one who can turn negative energy into positive action turns adversity into wind beneath their wings. And when you can do that, you do more than control emotion. You transform fire into light. In the material world, alchemy is the art of turning base metal into gold. In the inner world, emotional alchemy is the ability to transform pain, anger, and hurt into wisdom, compassion, and spiritual strength. Buddhism teaches that every negative emotion carries within it a profound lesson. But only those who observe and transform can see the gold hidden in the mud. Emotion by nature is not evil. It is simply energy that has not yet been understood or guided. The wise do not run from emotion, they enter it. Not to be swept away, but to understand and transform it. When you feel anger, instead of asking, "Who hurt me?" ask, "What is this anger trying to teach me?" Perhaps it reveals a limit, an old wound, or a value being violated. When you dare to face your anger, you are confronting the unhealed parts of yourself. That is the beginning of alchemy, turning heavy energy into awakening. Each time you do this, you not only calm a feeling, but expand your capacity for awareness. In Confucianism, the noble person turns anger into virtue, using adversity to refine character. In Taoism, this process is called internal elixir cultivation, refining inner energy to reach purity of spirit. In Buddhism, it is transforming consciousness into wisdom, turning ordinary perception into enlightened insight. Though their languages differ, all point to the same essence, transforming reaction into realization, suffering into freedom. Practicing emotional alchemy requires courage. Instead of running, you choose to sit with your emotion. When sad, you do not escape into work or distraction. When hurt, you do not blame or retaliate. You simply sit still, breathe, and allow the emotion to unfold. You watch it as an alchemist watches fire, knowing that fire can burn, but it can also refine. And when you are patient enough to stay in, that fire pain melts away, revealing the purest element of the soul, compassion. Remember, negative emotions are not enemies. They are raw materials for growth. Each time you stay with a feeling instead of reacting, you train mastery and deepen compassion. When you understand the root of your anger, you no longer fear anger. When you understand fear, you are no longer ruled by it. You become more whole, more free, more connected with your true self. Emotional alchemy does not make you numb. It makes you profound. For now, you not only feel, you transform. You no longer merely react to life. You use every disturbance as a catalyst for awakening. And when you can see light even in the darkness of emotion, you have become the alchemist of your own soul, turning every pain into the pure gold of wisdom and peace. Silence is the highest form of inner strength. In a world where everyone wants to speak, prove, and react, the one who knows how to remain silent is the true master. Silence is not weakness. It is awareness. Amid noise, the mark of a mind no longer provoked by the echo of ego. When someone insults, attacks, or tries to pull you into conflict, the natural instinct is to strike back. But in the very moment you choose not to react, you reclaim control. You stop being the puppet of emotion and become the one holding the strings. Buddhism calls this the perfection of patience, the strength of knowing that non-reaction is the most powerful reaction. For when you remain silent, you do not extinguish fire, but with wisdom. A single retort may satisfy the ego. For a second, yet timely silence can preserve a lifetime of peace. In Confucianism, the noble person is gentle but not quarrelsome, for truth does not need to be shouted. And in Taoism, silence is the return to wu-wei action without being dragged by action. Silence does not mean avoidance. It is the mindful pause, the sacred space between stimulus and response, where wisdom has room to appear. When provoked, if you can breathe, observe, and choose silence over haste, you transmute the entire negative current into calmness. Silence lets you see things as they are. The other person is not your enemy. They are a mirror reflecting the part of you still unmastered. Each moment you choose silence, you choose the lesson of serenity. How often have we hurt ourselves simply because we could not stay silent? One careless word can destroy a relationship. One impulsive reaction can stain a reputation. One pointless argument can rob you of peace. Meanwhile, silence detoxifies the mind. When you stop talking, you begin to hear the voice of your heart, the rhythm of your breath, the truth beneath the noise. That listening is what nourishes true wisdom. Those who practice silence know that not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves your peace. Some battles are won in words, but lost in spirit. The real victor walks away in quiet dignity, letting time prove and karma respond. When you no longer need to prove, you have already proven everything. Silence is the shield of the strong and the path of the wise. It protects energy, preserves dignity, and restores the soul to its center. When you can stay silent amid chaos, you not only keep peace for yourself, but radiate peace to others. Sometimes an understanding silence echoes louder than 1,000 defenses. Composure under pressure is not emotional denial. It is the art of standing firm in the storm. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. Only those with inner power remain clear when everything collapses. Buddhism calls this equanimity a balanced state of mind, unshaken by love or hate, gain or loss. It is the strength of one who knows that the outer world is merely a test, while inner peace is the root. Confucianism teaches completion through patience, clarity through stillness, for only in silence can one see the path. Taoism says flow with the natural way, yielding without resistance. When these three teachings unite, they reveal one truth. Calmness is not weakness, it is wisdom in motion. Life will always test you. When work overwhelms, when loved ones misunderstand, when plans fall apart, these are not signs of failure, but lessons to measure your self-mastery. Those untrained in calmness react with fear, anger, or complaint. But the cultivated spirit pauses, breathes, and asks, "What can I learn from this?" That single question draws the line between instinct and insight. Grace under pressure does not mean feeling nothing. It means feeling deeply without being ruled by feeling. Anger may rise, yet you do not let it steer you. Fear may appear, yet you do not let it stop you. Through mindfulness, you face emotion, directly acknowledge it, then let it pass like a wave over the ocean. Your mind is that ocean waves may stir, but its depth remains still. Those who embody grace under pressure are not spared hardship. They simply meet it with dignity. They refuse to be dragged down by circumstance and instead use it as training. When insulted, they stay silent. When betrayed, they forgive. When pressured, they center themselves. They know that every negative reaction burns them, while every moment of calm enlightens them. Remember, calmness is not a destination, it is a daily practice. Each time you stay centered in a difficult moment, you strengthen the mind. Each time you pause, instead of reacting, you expand the space for wisdom. Gradually, you become steadier, clearer, more unshakable. Ultimately, grace under pressure is the summit of emotional freedom. When nothing outside can unbalance you, you become immovable. That is the power of one who flows with life, yet is not swept away by it. One who walks through adversity with the quiet elegance of a liberated soul. Anger is a natural part of being human. But if we do not learn to see it through wisdom, it becomes a chain that binds us, stealing our peace, our clarity, and our connection to ourselves. The journey of mastering emotion is not about eliminating anger. It is about transforming it into a teacher. For within every emotion, no matter how intense, lies a seed of awareness. When you observe instead of react, breathe instead of explode, and stay silent, instead of arguing, you open the door that leads from instinct to wisdom. The 7 principles we have walked through, from emotional detachment, mental reprogramming, self-sovereignty, energy transmutation, emotional alchemy, the power of silence to grace under pressure, are not merely methods of control. They form a roadmap for awakening. Each principle is a step that takes you from unconscious reaction to conscious response, from being ruled by emotion to using emotion as a tool for understanding. When the mind is steady, every storm becomes a lesson. When wisdom awakens, every wound becomes an opportunity to cultivate compassion. Buddhism teaches that no emotion is inherently bad. It is only how we relate to it that determines whether we suffer or awaken. Confucianism reminds us that the noble person does not let emotion obscure. Reason for calmness is the foundation of virtue, wisdom, and righteousness. Taoism adds that wanting harmony with a way does not resist life's flow yet is not swept away by it. 3 paths, 1 truth. Whoever masters emotion masters life. You do not need perfection to begin. All it takes is 1 pause instead of anger, 1 silence instead of argument, 1 question, what can I learn from this feeling? And you are already walking the path of mastery. Each small act, repeated often, becomes a new instinct, the instinct of mindfulness, replacing the old reflex of reaction. Remember, emotional intelligence does not arise from study alone, but from deep self-observation. When you can see anger rising and still remain present, you are no longer its victim, you are its witness. And in the moment you become the witness, you are free. The journey from anger to emotional wisdom is a return to your true self, to the place of calm mind, clear insight, and boundless compassion. No one else can walk that path for you. But the moment you begin even with a single mindful breath, you step out of the maze of reactivity and into the vast space of peace, where the world no longer shakes you, because you have become the source of peace itself.